I'm Tom Korn, Senior Vice President of Security Products at VMware. VMware really plays a very sort of foundational role in what I would describe as architecting security in. There's a lot of very innovative and creative security vendors. We have an enormous quantity of security products and technologies. But some of the most fundamental problems in security aren't likely to be solved by an individual security vendor or product because they're more foundational, they're more architectural. Understanding the context of the applications and data you're trying to protect, helping orchestrate things. And so those are the areas in which we've really focused. And I guess the simplest way to summarize our role and our strategy in security is really focusing on three things. One is just intrinsically, how do we create least privilege environments in our infrastructure around the applications and data we're trying to protect? And the second is working with our partner ecosystem. How do we help them align and orchestrate and insert in the right places to help secure those same elements? And the third is really, how do we help with the broader system in security? How do we help facilitate the automation and the orchestration around cyber hygiene in general? And so those are the areas, and if we do our job right here, this can have massive impact. We may not be a security company, but we could be the most important company in security if we get this right. So least privilege is one of the oldest and most foundational principles in security. It's this notion, somewhat like need to know. It's this notion that the components and functions of a system, the users of a system, should have access to the things that they need in order to get their job done and nothing more. And if you can create least privilege environments, it has enormous impact on security because it creates a much smaller attack surface. Things have much more context and a much brighter signals when things do go wrong. So it makes the problem much more manageable. It creates a much more securable environment itself. And if you look at the things that we've done, both on the end user side with things like AirWatch, trying to create least privilege around sort of the devices, or Workspace ONE, least privilege around the users and the user access, or in the data center with NSX and microsegmentation, least privilege around at a network level. There is sort of a consistent theme there. Now, you may ask yourself, there's kind of one missing piece in that puzzle, a pretty important piece. What about compute, right? That's the foundation in a data center, and obviously we're by far the leader in virtualized compute and the infrastructure in virtualized compute. And clearly that's an enormous issue, right? A lot of the security problems coming in through the application or affecting the application, certainly going after that. And that's exactly what we've been working on in the last several years. How do we create least privilege for the data center endpoint, for the compute stack, the actual application that's running on top of it? Often people ask me, what's the next big thing after microsegmentation? This is the next big thing. And if you've heard the news around VMware AppDefense, that's exactly what it is. It's the culmination of all of this research and development on how do you create a least privilege on the compute stack. So VMware AppDefense is a very exciting new solution that we just launched that focuses on protecting applications that are running on virtualized or cloud environments. Quite simply, what it does is enable you to create a least privilege environment on the compute stack. If you look at the compute environment, what you see is lots of processes on different machines running on operating systems. Some of these processes are interacting with each other, accessing resources. And as an attacker, a lot of the attacks have to do with manipulating that system, manipulating the operating system, introducing new processes, manipulating a process so it communicates differently or to a different thing. And the notion of least privilege of the compute stack is to say, what was the intended purpose of this system and the intended behavior of this component in that system? And how do I watch what's running against what it was supposed to be, and if it's different, how do I respond? And that's exactly what AppDefense does, and we happen to leverage our unique position in the hypervisor to do things just simply weren't possible before. Because within the hypervisor, we're in a unique position to understand what was provisioned in the first place and what's running. we're in a unique position to use the software-defined infrastructure to create automated and orchestrated response. And we're in a unique position to be able to create protected zones for this security control so that we can watch over the integrity of the control itself. Because as we all know, especially in the endpoint security space, if you're successful at stopping attackers, at some point they start coming after you. So AppDefense presents this incredibly simple mechanism. You turn it on, it taps into the VMware infrastructure that you have, it makes sense of the machines and starts to show you these are the applications you really have running on these systems and what they were supposed to do and what their intended purpose and intended behavior is. If you want to start protecting it, you tell the system, what do you want to have happen if what's running doesn't match what was intended? And then the system can perform that from you. We think it can have enormous impact on, very simply, shrinking the attack surface, creating a much more secure environment around those applications. But much like we were discussing earlier with the partner ecosystem, this also adds a lot of value to our partners too, who can integrate with AppDefense and benefit from these same properties. Now they have context of the applications. Now they can see when applications are being manipulated. Now they're in a position to also leverage the software-defined infrastructure to create orchestrated and automated response. So we think this will be enormously powerful and impactful on the market.